Good evening and welcome. I would like to let everybody know that Ryan Kaith from KERM, KGOS Radio, is here with us tonight. This council meeting is being broadcast live on the local radio station and also on the YouTube channel. We also have Miss Jess Oakes here from the Torrington Telegram. This is Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024, the 7th meeting of the year, first council meeting in April. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked Councilman Rick Patterson to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the mayor's informational item. Spring has arrived, and thoughts of spring cleanup arise. I see many already engaged in outside spring cleanup. The city of Torrington has released this year's spring cleanup dates. This year's spring cleanup dates are Saturday, May 4 through Saturday, May 11. City customers can utilize the baler facility for dumping of tree limbs and grass, etc. Please call the baler for more information. That number is 307-532-4689. Again, 307-532-4689 to reach the baler for any more information you would need. The baler will be open from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturdays during the scheduled cleanup. Again, that's Saturday, May 4 through Saturday, May 11. Customers must also be able to validate their city accounts with a city bill reflecting a sanitation charge and a valid ID to utilize the dump for free. You are always welcome to dump otherwise for a fee. Only 5 tires without rims per household will be accepted. However, heavy truck tires, commercial tires, and equipment tires are not allowed. No hazardous chemicals or paints will be accepted, and appliances containing Freon, such as freezers and refrigerators, must be tagged as Freon-free by a licensed agent. For more information regarding spring cleanup, please visit www.torrington.wi.gov/216/streets-sanitation or visit the Torrington Police Department Facebook page. On March 6, 2024, the City of Torrington received a check in the amount of $14,434 from Wyoming Community Gas. The city can use this money to do good in the community. These things include local scholarships at Eastern Wyoming College and community improvements such as the gazebo area on the corner of East A and 22nd on the grounds of the old Pioneer School. Local natural gas customers will be receiving information in the mail with a selection period that starts on Thursday, April 4th, 2024, and ends on Wednesday, April 24th, 2024. By your selection of Wyoming Community Gas, you help the City of Torrington to receive Wyoming Community Gas distribution funds, like the recent check the City of Torrington received in the amount of $14,434. Later, we will hear from Rhonda Estes, Senior Accounting Clerk, to more fully explain the ballot system for electing your natural gas provider and the benefits of Wyoming Community Gas. Prevent Child Abuse Wyoming and the Wyoming Children's Trust Fund each April sponsors Child Abuse Prevention Month. Be aware of signs of child abuse. Take appropriate action. If you become aware of child abuse or neglect, call your local police departments, sheriff's office, or Department of Family Services. Let's all be observant and involved to do what we can to prevent child abuse and neglect. Let's all work together to protect the most vulnerable among us. Please enjoy the warmer weather. More pedestrians will obviously be out, as will more bicycles and motorcycles. Please take extra care to watch out for them. As always, please slow down, please drive carefully, and please refrain from using your cell phones while driving. Finally, the sewer lining project starts tomorrow, April 3rd, through the end of the month of April. In Instituiform, the contractor, will be working on the sewer lines in multiple areas throughout the city. The contractor will be notifying residents prior to work at each segment of the sewer line. And for that segment, they will be asking that residents refrain from using their washing machines, dishwashers, toilets, etc. during the work. Each segment takes approximately 3 to 4 hours from start to finish. Thank you in advance for your cooperation with that project. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from the March 19th, 2024 council meeting as published.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion from Councilman Kelly to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Councilman Patterson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda as published signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the approval of the consent agenda is passed. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda itself.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the agenda as presented.
I have a motion from Councilman Victorin to approve the agenda as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Deal. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the agenda as presented is approved. Next item on the agenda for this evening is what we call the public forum. I don't see any sheets in that black box in front of Councilman Victorin, but I always like to explain this for people who don't regularly attend, plus it's on the radio. This part of the agenda is for non-agenda items. There is a time limit of 2 minutes, and the speaker must sign up before the meeting. This is a time for the council to listen. No action will be taken. So if you're interested, you may do that by signing up and placing the sheet in the black box in front of Councilman Victorin. Next item on the agenda is an information item, and I want to thank Rhonda Estes for being here to explain to us the Wyoming Community Gas Update. So I would ask her to come and visit with us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I wanted to let you know that we're getting presented with mail that will be explaining our choice gas program with the natural gas. And it is actually choosing the commodity part. Black Hills Energy will actually still do all of the billing, the meter reading, the service maintenance. That is their company's, but there is a portion of it that is just for your consumption. And so you can choose which supplier it is that you want. And the ladies at City Hall would be more than welcome to help you if anyone needs it, or any of the residents in our community. That's what we're here for. No matter which supplier they choose, we will be willing to help them in whatever way we can to help them feel comfortable with their choice. And those that do go with Wyoming Community Gas, they are the only supplier that gives back to the community, and that is where the distribution came back to our community in the amount of that $14,400 that we've done some really neat things with. And originally it started, with the prices had increased. We had one sole supplier of gas back when I was young, starting my family, and it had increased several times, and it was a substantial amount in 1 year. And so when the council and the mayors had gotten together at WHAM, an educational place that they go for, they had gotten together and discussed this and decided what was it that they could do to help cause some competition. So this program initially started just to create competition to help drive the prices down. So their goal has been met because there are several suppliers out there. They are very competitive. So in that, it has helped to keep those prices lower and to keep the gas suppliers going out and purchasing that gas at the best time that they can. Otherwise, we would be on what is a pass-on rate, and there's no incentive to necessarily go and purchase the gas at, they just go out and purchase it when it's needed for their storage. So I just wanted to let you and any of your friends, family, our citizens, that's what we're here for, is to help them with this. If they have any questions, they're more than welcome to come and give us a holler. We'll step out and help them with whatever we can, so.
All right. Well, I'll start. That was a wonderful explanation, and I asked you to do it because you've been involved in Wyoming Community Gas Program since its inception, correct?
Not quite, but right after that is when I had started with the city, and one of the mayors had put me on the committee, and I've been there ever since, so, yeah. So thank you so much for your time.
Council, do you have any questions for Mrs. Estes?
Mr. Mayor, just a comment. I just want to express my appreciation for you doing this and also for the City Hall folks assisting. When I returned to Torrington 20 years ago, I ran into this pretty quickly. I had never encountered such a thing before, and it was all foreign to me. And so having just information available and people to answer questions, things is very much appreciated. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And if we don't have the answers, we will get contacts for who can give us the information that is being needed. So, thank you.
There is a time limit on this. Do you know what the time limit was?
Yes, the program only runs through April 24th, so it runs for 3 weeks. And the first selection that is received for the residents or the area is the one that is valid. So if someone calls you and you give them a control number, they can ballot for you. So don't give them the control number unless you're ready to ballot and you know that's who you want to go with. So otherwise, but you're welcome to stop in and we can sure help you. It doesn't matter which supplier. We're here for the residents, and the reason we're here is to help keep those prices down. So thank you.
Rhonda, Councilman,
Don't
go
leave
ahead.
yet.
I'm curious about the participation in our city with Wyoming Community Gas. Has that maintained its level, or is it increasing or decreasing?
It has kind of maintained. Just recently, I think we're still staying about the same amount. We may have decreased a little bit last year. And I think with some new residents in the area, it's a little harder to get some of that information out. I know when the gas program first started, we hit pretty hard on, the radio and talking to the telegram and getting to the senior centers, trying to help get that information out. And our residents did a lot of work after that by letting them know where they could go to get the information and to stop in. And we still have people that it's kind of a coffee time thing that they want to see who's getting the best prices. In the end, it probably doesn't make a lot of difference over the year. But the fact that it's driving those prices so competitive, and the communities didn't go in it to make money. They went in it to create the competition. So if money is made, that's why they decided for that distribution to come back to the communities to have something neat happening in their communities that they can do with it. And there's also some grant programs out there for communities in Wyoming that are not necessarily in the choice gas area. Anybody's welcome to look and apply for some of those grants. And so even in some areas that do not have the choice gas, there are some neat things that have gone back into the communities as well. And that has been from our supplier that those grants have been done. So thank you. Thank you for your questions.
I think that 14,000, isn't that the biggest one we've had?
Lynette may know that. I don't think so. But we have, originally it started with the skateboard park. That was one of the first big projects. We've always had scholarships at EWC. There was a little time frame in there that it just got lapsed. I think we got taken off of their list and they didn't realize it. We hadn't realized it. But we've done like the Legion baseball, softball, a lot of the recreation equipment and programs. We sponsor the ambulance at the Little Britches. There's a golf tee out at the golf course that's the beautification, and everything was done with Wyoming Community Gas. There's also some neat exercise equipment that's along the walking path. So, and the gazebo that we have out here. There's just some neat things that have been done in our community with this Wyoming Community Gas money. So, it's kind of a neat opportunity for our residents to see what they've brought back to our community. So,
So the most we've ever received, it's really close, was in 2021, and we received $14,587.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Estes. All right. We are now into the action items on the agenda. The first item is mayor's appointment, or request for council to approve an appointment of the mayor regarding Luis Correa as fire chief with a term from April 8th, 2024 through December 31, 2024. And I see Luis Correa back there and Fire Chief Patch, if you gentlemen would come forward.
Evening, Mayor,
Good
Council.
evening.
Evening.
You're an important one here.
Well, I've talked to both of you. I talked to you, current chief, yesterday evening, and Luis has been elected by his peers for this position. You have asked me to ask council to approve him as the new fire chief, and his term will start April 8th of '24 and will run through December 31st of '24. So first of all, I want to welcome you and thank you for your willingness and eagerness to take the position, Luis. We appreciate that. And
Thank you.
sure. And if you have anything to say, I'd let you, or I'd let council ask you any questions that they want.
If you guys have any questions,
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment or two, as I always do. I mentioned coming back to Torrington 20 years ago, and I taught at EWC. And Mr. Correa was one of my students very early on. So I don't take credit for the things he's accomplished, but he was a good student. He's been a good employee for the city. He's been a good firefighter, and he's a good man. And I absolutely support this appointment.
I appreciate that. Anybody else?
How long have you been with the department?
I have been with the department
So it's more than 10 years, isn't it?
9, actually.
9?
Yep. Just shortly after I got on with the city, I joined the department back in 2016, I believe.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor, for Lance. Lance, how long have you served as chief?
So this was my 4th term, so 8 years.
Is that, are you the longest serving chief?
No,
Department?
I don't believe so. Okay. Dennis said that he's got me beat by a little bit, and we're almost tied.
Well, Mr. Mayor, my appreciation to both gentlemen and to current Chief Petch and future Chief Correa, if the vote goes your way, I assume it will. But definitely our appreciation for Chief Petch and all of his previous work for the department.
Yes, there's
Thank
two
you.
things going on here. We're welcoming Chief Correa, and we're thanking you for your service, Chief Petch. So,
Yes, and
We have to
I
get,
echo the congratulations for everybody, and I'm interested to see that apparently the dress code was passed down too, that the shorts are the required dress
I
code
wore
for the
them
chief.
just because Lance always wears his shorts.
And we're just jealous.
Well, I want to thank all you people from the volunteer fire department, the time it takes, you devote to the job and the hazards of the job, and with no pay, a little incentive once in a while, but that's about it. So we all thank you.
All right, if there aren't any further questions for either gentleman, I would entertain a motion to approve the mayor's appointment of Luis Correa as the new fire chief.
Mr. Mayor, I would be happy to make the motion to approve the appointment of Luis Correa.
All right, do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Councilman Patterson. Do we have any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the appointment of Luis Correa as fire chief signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, you are appointed new fire chief. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You'll just have to get him used to standing a little closer to the microphone because he talks a little quiet.
There you go.
So we had to buy a sound system for him, so just don't let him off the hook.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, next item on the agenda is ordinance on second reading relating to special event permits and fees. And since Mr. Eddington is out, I will read the heading on the proposed ordinance. That is an ordinance amending and reenacting section 3.04.210 of the Torrington Municipal Code 2024 revisions relating to special event permits and fees. And Chief Johnson is not here this evening. I will just start this by saying there were a couple of changes made to it. They're in yellow. Should be on page 1 on paragraph 2C. That was added at the request of council last time, and I think there's a second one on page 3, paragraph 4, right there in the middle in yellow. So those were the two changes that council requested be made after first reading. And I would call on Assistant Chief Conley if he has anything to add to this.
Nothing beyond what's been discussed so far. I know Chief Johnson has put a lot of work into this ordinance, and we feel that it's pretty complete and should contain everything that we need, and hopefully nothing we don't.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I know Sylvia Naya, the deputy clerk, has spent a lot of time working with the chief on this, and she's satisfied on her end with this ordinance, so here's the update, gentlemen.
I would just ask, Mr. Mayor, as I recall our conversation last time, the processing fee, even if the event was going to be canceled prior to the event, because the city has to go through processing, I thought we were going to maintain keep the $40 processing fee.
As I recall, I think that was a last-minute suggestion from the city attorney that we put may to give us some flexibility
Okay.
if there was an unusual situation, but I think the normal practice would be
Okay,
to keep it, if that helps
it does.
clarify it, so.
And I would point out that last clause in that sentence, may be refunded at the discretion of the city attorney. So it could be refunded, or if there were circumstances that indicated it ought not to be, then the city would have discretion.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, along those lines, I appreciate the amendment. I think the intent, maybe, if I could be corrected, but I think the intent was the discretion would be held by the council. Would that be correct? Currently, as I read it, the discretion lies with the city of Torrington. I'm not sure who exactly within the city would give that discretion.
So you're suggesting we need a clarification?
I think a clarification. I think ultimately the council would decide whether to refund the fee or not. I just have, I guess that's a suggestion for myself for third reading, Mr. Mayor, and I have two more if you would indulge me.
Okay.
I don't think they're controversial at all, but in section 4 of the ordinance, under community or nonprofit special event, I think the definition of that should move to the definitions section of the ordinance. And then I also think that the definition of a community or nonprofit special event needs a little bit more bolstering. It just seems to me that it's very simple in that it's an event that's not that's not hosted for profit or promotion, and then later on doesn't serve alcohol. But I could certainly see an event that fits that criteria, but actually would more fit a special event. So I'm just wondering for third reading if we could bolster that definition a little bit of the community or nonprofit.
Well, let me first ask Ms. Anaya, did you follow what Councilman Victor
No, I'm
was?
still trying to figure out under definitions.
So definition, in the first section of the ordinance, definitions defines special event. But in that section, it doesn't define community or nonprofit event. That definition comes in section 4, under fees. So my suggestion is basically a Scribner edit where that definition is moved to section 1. And then along the same lines, that definition of community or nonprofit has a little bit more meat. I could see an event being held that is sponsored by a nonprofit that doesn't have alcohol, but requires a substantial amount of city resources.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, again, I want to make sure that Ms. Anaya understands what Councilman Victor is suggesting.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm certainly willing to work with the
Okay.
deputy clerk
Yeah.
before third reading
Okay,
on that amendment,
all right.
and as well as the chief and the deputy, the assistant.
Yeah, I think Chief Johnson was just focused on the alcohol portion of that, but no, you're certainly right. There could be a lot more.
Move that definition under the definition
Yeah.
section, makes
Well,
sense.
thank you for those suggestions, and it'll be a collaborative effort with you and Deputy Clerk and the Chief. All right, any other suggestions, cares, concerns?
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve this ordinance now on second reading.
All right, and that would include those changes coming for third reading.
Changes as discussed.
Okay. So I have a motion from Councilman Patterson to approve on second reading in item number 2, the ordinance relating to special event permits and fees with the proposed changes as set out and discussed. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion? I'll call for vote. All those in favor of approving that ordinance on second reading as was set forth in the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that ordinance is passed on second reading. Next item on the agenda is the special event permits. Leanne Mattis and Braden Conauer with Go Goshen are requesting special event permits for a series of summer concert events to be held on June 5th, 2024, June 12th, 2024, June 19, 2024, and June 26, 2024, from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the intersection of East A Street and 21st Avenue. And do we have Ms. Mattis or, yes, ma'am, she's here. Would you like to visit with us about this?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me.
And would you
Yeah.
just please state your name for the record?
Leanne Mattis.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we are in the midst of planning our summer concert series again. This will be our third year, third location change, and hopefully the last. So a few small changes just regarding that location change. And yeah, we're excited to kick it off again this year. Did you have any questions for me about kind of the location changes or
Well,
anything?
I had fairly extensive discussions with Chief Johnson.
Sure.
And with Assistant Chief Conley. It's literally in the intersection of East A and 21st, right?
Correct.
Before it had been on the city parking lot property, I think was one place.
Right, the first year. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And can you, and it's going to be facing northeast toward the courthouse lawn and the courthouse itself.
Right, yeah. So we're hoping that kind of that green space and maybe some tree coverage will help from deter from the summer heat. Hopefully we don't get any rain this year, but
Yes.
on Wednesdays anyways.
Residents of the detention center should appreciate it.
You know, we did think about that, took that into consideration.
And since the courthouse lawn will be used, it's my understanding that the commissioners have been consulted and have agreed to allow that.
Correct, yeah. I attended the latest commission meeting, and they agreed that that would be okay for us to do, so.
Any further questions for Ms. Mattis?
Actually, I have a serious question about this. Last year, the weather, as you recall, and so we ended up having to, cancel and reschedule. And is there a mechanism that we could use that we approve this, but it also gives some flexibility should one be canceled, or will they need to come through the whole approval process again? Because we did run into that last year, right?
We did, yeah, twice.
Well, and I don't literally remember, but I do remember
Right.
one was made up when council met at Jordan Park.
Correct,
That was a
yes.
makeup. And I don't, tell you the truth, I don't remember if they came back to council or not, or Chief Johnson
Did
just.
we? Yeah,
It was
I
an
couldn't
amendment?
recall.
It's the original
Okay.
permit.
And I'm fine if we leave it as it is or build that in, I don't know, I
Sure.
remember that last year was kind of disruptive.
Right, yeah,
Required a reapplication.
right.
Well, and I understand the reasoning that you are laying out here. And I'm not superstitious, but I'll just throw this out. Are we going to jinx it if we?
Right,
Just leave it
And
alone.
seriously, I'm not superstitious. I don't believe in that. But I would hope, I mean, who knows? Unless you have it at late August, you could get rain.
right.
There's just in June, July, May, so, all right. All right.
Could we simply make a motion that dates as presented and future dates, should there be weather events?
Well, that could be, but here would be my concern. If they were going to leave it at the same location, but if they think that's not good for whatever reason, we want to combine it with some other
It's
event,
true.
then I
Sure.
don't want to tie them into that, and we'd have to come back with an amendment anyway,
Yeah,
is what I'm
that's
thinking.
a good point. So, leave well enough alone.
Maybe.
Yeah, but I do believe that you've done a good job with the location, and actually, looks like you have more room for the crowd, for the
Right,
food
right.
trucks, and the parking area is open now.
Yes, yeah. I think that I'm really pleased with this location, and we're really hoping to hopefully mitigate some any sound issues that might arise by, we've considered talking to the bus garage, maybe if they want to set up some buses and, advertise that they're hiring for the school year. One of the ideas we've thrown out there, so. And then we are containing the alcohol, I guess, a little better Chief Johnson was really pleased with kind of the setup this year for that, so.
And I noticed that on the notification of event sheets, it looks like you've got any affected businesses covered on that notice.
Correct.
Looks like they all signed off on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got,
So that's good. And
Yeah.
I mean, I would invite anybody here who is against this to speak, but I don't
Right.
think there are. So I like that they all were not only notified, but actually signed off on it. So that's good.
Yep.
And I want to reiterate, whenever I talk to Chief Johnson about these things, the business people have an interest, which is the business people's interest. That's not really the city's interest per se. The city's interest is safety, not violating our noise ordinances or any other ordinances, and keeping the alcohol contained.
Yeah.
And I know Chief Johnson is absolutely satisfied that alcohol containment is easily done under this. The noise ordinance won't be violated under this, and it'll be safe.
yes.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Leanne,
Yeah.
I don't really want to get involved with the intricacies of your plan, but since you are going to have a cordoned off area just for alcohol, and you have food service trucks separate from that area, what have you thought about for, folks still want to have a drink, but also eat there?
Sure. Yeah. That is something that we thought about, and along the same lines with the restrooms, we do plan on setting up some porta potties within that contained area. The food, yeah, I mean, and we haven't visited with our restaurants that are that could potentially participate. So maybe we set something up on inside those boundaries as well. But food truck wise, we'll have them set up separately. But and also along those lines, we'll have coverage for those entrances and exits. So. And one thing I did want to mention, it does say here that the event will be held from 3 until 9, and that's just the closures. The actual event will be 6 to 9, if that makes a difference.
It does. Event starts at 6 and runs till 9, but you got to prepare, that's the 3
Correct.
o'clock now. Okay.
Yep.
And I will ask Assistant Chief Connolly, I know we've talked a bit about it. I talked to Chief Johnson a lot more about it, but you, as you sit here, you've talked to the chief yourself, and he has no safety concerns, noise ordinance concerns, or alcohol.
No, we feel like this
restriction
probably best mitigates any of the previous problems we've run into in the past. With the band directed at the courthouse, I mean, that's a large stone building. As Ms. Mattis said, you got some grass and some trees in there that'll kind of help dampen and absorb some of that sound. Sound logically would be reflected off the courthouse and go south, which is going to be empty businesses at that time of day, including your office. So they're, should really cut down on any sound pollution outside of the immediate event area. As far as the alcohol service area, we're much happier with this plan before. Previously, it was kind of difficult to monitor that, so we had to make sure we had a dedicated police officer there for nothing but the event. We feel that this is going to be easily enough controlled that we won't have to have somebody come in on overtime to work this event. We'll be able to control it between the Goshen staff and our on-duty police officers. And of course, Chief Johnson or I are always down there as well, and we feel that that's going to make it a lot easier for us to control and, basically control the alcohol distribution. And it'll be fairly simple to kind of answer a little more of Councilman Victorin's question. the food trucks should be close enough. I mean, they can leave and they just have to leave their alcohol inside the barrier and go out, use the bathroom, grab their food and go back and sit down and eat. So,
I assume, Leanne, you plan to utilize a lot of picnic tables and
Yes,
things
correct.
like in the
Yep,
past?
we'll set some tables up inside that barrier as well as on the outside.
And sort of the global question, I know in the past, Go Goshen has wanted to bring people down to the downtown area.
Yes.
Right? It's a way to get people down, and either they park on Main Street or somewhere near there, or they have a view of Main Street that's up close and not just driving by in the car, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah, we definitely strive to promote all of our local businesses in downtown, in that downtown corridor, and really want to highlight what a fantastic downtown we have. So, yeah.
And I kind of like the use of the courthouse lawn, because people can sit there and maybe catch some shade too, and I think
Yeah,
that's
I was
a nice
really-
expansion.
Yeah, absolutely. I was kind of excited about that as well. So we're thankful they agreed to let us utilize it.
All right, any further questions for either Assistant Chief Connolly or for Ms. Mattis? I'd entertain a motion to approve the special event permits set forth in item 3.
Mr. Mayor, I would make the motion to approve the special event permit for Go Goshen.
I have a motion from Councilman Deal to approve the special event permit set forth in item 3 for Go Goshen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the special event permits set forth in item 3 for Go Goshen signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, those special event permits are approved. Thank you, Ms. Mattis.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we'll see you there.
All right, next item on the agenda is item number 4 for council consideration is the new mass notification system. And I know we have Chuck Kenyon, the city emergency management coordinator, and we also have Thomas Bozeman, Goshen County emergency management coordinator. And I see Mr. Bozeman approaching the podium. And if you would just state your name for the record, please.
Yes, sir. First, Honorable Mayor Doby and members of council, thank you for having me tonight. My name's Tom Bozeman. I'm the Goshen County Emergency Manager and recent fire warden as well. I'm here tonight to talk to you guys about the mass notification system that the county, EWC, as well as the city of Torrington all share. Right now, we currently use OnSolve as our code red, is what everybody knows it by. It's our current vendor. We are been with them for quite some time. They were kind of a founder in the mass notification software field, and they started years ago, and we were on a what's called a minute plan, sort of like the old cell phone plans where you paid for a bank of minutes, you use your minutes type of thing. That plan is going away. We can stay on that plan, but it's a substantial increase. When I started last year, one of the first things I had to do was get a new contract in place because we have to renew every year. And when I did so, I was notified that we'd have an 8% increase last year, which we did absorb and pay, all three of us, all three of the stakeholders in that program. With this year, it was going to be an 18% increase. Based off that, I started looking at other vendors. Coming from a different municipality that used a different vendor, I checked into that vendor as well as 3 other vendors, and we had several stakeholders watch through their web promotions and presentations, and we selected Civic Plus, which is also Civic. You guys might know them as your website carrier right now, which is the county is actually switching to them as well. Civic Plus has a mass notification module called Civic Ready. At that point, we put together more of a couple more stakeholders to look specifically at Civic Ready because it seemed to be what would fit our needs the best. It would integrate with our website. would integrate with the city's website. So we then looked at that program, and we did like a pros and cons of it versus our current website mass notification provider, which was OnSolve. If you go to the piece of paper that I passed out earlier, and if you go to the back, there's a comparison chart. What we'll talk about first is just the features and functions of each system, so you can compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges, and then we'll talk about cost and what the cost differences is in the two programs. For the OnSolve, they after talking to her and kind of trying to negotiate a good price last year, she really felt that the 8%, the 18% that we were being forced on was too much, but she couldn't, our sales representative couldn't reduce that at all. So if you look at the cost there, if we stayed on the minute plan, which they will let us do, just because of the amount of fuss that I put forward, that would cost us $16,000 a year this coming up year. That's with the 18% added to what we paid last year. If we move to their unlimited, which is what they basically want us to do, they're trying to get everybody off the minute plan onto an unlimited plan, it's a reduction in price, $15,001. When we talked to Civic Ready at the time, they were at $13,000. But if you'll notice on this chart here, it's a little bit less. Substantially, yes. And if you look there, the plan, on our minute plan, we had 28,000 minutes to use in a year. Last year, because of the amount of alerts we had to pay an overage charge because we went over and had to be banked another 1,800 minutes at $750. So that did increase our cost last year, even on top of what we'd already paid. But if you look through, I'll talk to the plan features there. Some of those are in shorthand. So internal comms, basically what internal comms is when we set up the new system, and Civic Ready is really good at it. I haven't been able to see exactly how Code Red would do it, but you would be able to get rid of phone trees. Basically, if you have groups like the water department, police department, they can all set up their own user groups, and they can send messages through Code Red, unlimited amounts of messages. City's closed today, this road's closed today, whatever it may be. External communications, you can do the same thing there with the citizens. You can send out road closures, utility work. When you send it out on Code Red, it basically feeds right into your website. So to then go on your splash page of your website, somebody goes to the front page, it'll be a release where the news releases run. That post would then run on that web page automatically for you, so you don't have to go adding it to two spots. The white pages and yellow pages, which is really important for our residents in the county that live outside a cell area, they still have hard lines, whether it be through Vive or whoever has the hard lines out here. OnSolve uploads those once a year. If you want it more than that, it's $1,500 an upload, where Civic Ready does that every day. They do it at midnight every night. They upload all the new yellow and white pages for your jurisdiction. And if you look at internal comms, the biggest difference between these two programs when it comes to Civic Ready not being quite as much as the OnSolve is for internal comms, it sends out text. The T is for text, E is for email, PC is for phone call. You'll see that it sends out text, emails, and phone calls, whichever you select for internal messages that goes out to your employees, and stuff like that. For your external messages, it sends out text, email, and phone calls for the unlimited. But for the Civic Ready, when you're doing your internal communications, it's just text and email only, doesn't do phone calls. Because that's where the majority of the cost for the program runs, is them interfacing with the local phone districts and stuff like that to make the phone calls. But for iPaws, which is the one where you really want it to reach out to everybody, that's the tornado warnings and stuff like that, floods, all that kind of stuff, where it's an actual emergency where the weather service is setting off our system for us. It goes out on all three. And that goes for OnSolve and for Civic Ready as well. So we'll send them all out. For our Minute Bank, we have what's called unlimited minimum branding. Our branding is basically the city being able to put their own logo on their webpage. So when they send out a message, it goes out with the city's logo. The county sends one out, it goes out with the county's logo. The college sends something out, it goes out with their logo, their number, and everything. It'll actually say, from Civic Ready, EWC. So they have their own branding. You also have multiple databases, and that goes for all three of them. So we're allowed to create different databases where we can send stuff to different people. It doesn't have to all fall under one hierarchy, what I mean. So you could have Chuck in charge of the city's system and have all the city employees, and then I will be in charge of the county, and then, of course, EWC their own. And you'd have their own administrator within each one that can control everything in the system as the power user. Each of them do APIs to social media. Right now, OnSolve doesn't do Twitter/X. It only goes to Facebook. So we just set that up because OnSolve didn't have that in the past. They claimed to have it, but it didn't work. They're both vendors are multilingual, so when you type out a message or say a message, it will translate it. It can send it out different ways if you click that on the screen. The other things that Civic Ready has is what's called local group management, basically meaning me as a power user, Chuck as a power user, and whoever at EWC or they wants to be on there. We can go in if a resident calls and says, hey, I don't want to receive these messages anymore, or I never signed up. We can take those people's names out of the system so they won't continue to receive notifications. Where under the system we have now, we can't do that at all. We have to refer them to the company to call down in Florida to try to get their name removed or added if they're having difficulty. With Civic Plus, we can just jump right in there, add them, so take them off, change their, if you have an elderly person who wants, I don't want these, but I want these, we can go in there and do that for them, which is really good. It also ties into Civic Notify, which is part of the Civic Plus website, so you can send stuff out. If you put it on there to go automatically to the website, not only on the web page, but it can also then go out by email a second time if you need it to. And it's also got what's called internal polling. And not sure if the police department would use that here, but we did. Like if you have shifts available for work, you could just pull up police department. Hey, I got a shift right here. Anybody want to work it? It sends a text to everybody. They can then respond back, and it'll show who responded yes, who responded no, and who responded first, who responded second. You can actually put in there, if Mayor Doby got the last shift and he can't get the next one, it's got to go to somebody else. So it'll actually let you build those parameters into it, which is really cool. The best part of this whole thing, I think, is the price breakdown. If you look down at that bottom box, those percentages there were agreed upon years ago, prior to my tenure here with the county, of how we would do the cost share on this program. And if you look at the 2023 Code Red, that's what we actually paid this year for the service that we had. Underneath it is the 2024 Civic Ready amounts, and then the last line would be your savings year one. Year two savings will be lower because the first year includes the implementation and setup fees to get the program up and running. So that would actually increase a little bit after that. The one thing that this has, OnSolve didn't do it unless we go to their unlimited plan, is what's called an automatic uplift, which is basically their yearly increase that's built into the contract. They usually do 5%. I got them down to 3%, playing we don't have much money thing and going back and forth with them, and was able to get them down to 3%, but that's still a substantial amount of money. But at $6,000 versus the $16,000, we're saving a whole lot up front. It will take us a long time to get to that $16,000. So one of the things we would have to worry about, or one of the I'd say it's a hurdle, but it's not a speed bump more than a hurdle, is getting everybody moved over from Code Red to Civic Ready. The last couple, when I started this process, I called several of the EMs throughout the state. Most that I talked to had either already moved away from Code Red or were moving away from Code Red or trying to have consideration. They were talking to people about doing the same thing, just due to the fact that they've been a little stagnant in their programming and their pricing has went up substantially. But several of the two last people that left the two counties, and Platte County was the very last one that moved away from them, they had a hard time getting their database, the people that had signed up prior to. So he had to start basically from square zero. So what he did was, when he found out that he couldn't get it, he signed the contract with them so there was an overlap, and then he used Code Red to point people to the new system. And that's something similar to what we want to do here. Our contract right now currently expires on August the 17th. So we would like to enter into a contract with Civic Plus for the Civic Ready module around May 1st. Implementation takes about 4 to 6 weeks, and then that will give us a little bit more time to use that system to move people over to the new one. And then, of course, we'll have to go out. If Code Red allows us to have the database of the people that we have in there to be a little bit smoother transition to make sure that we keep the same amount of users. But we may have to have a large, carry-on of trying to get out there, getting people signing up, getting the word out, going to the senior center, signing people up there, going to the Goshen, the music on Main, and signing people up there and stuff like that to try to get the word out, to get to the new system. Of course, use social media and the Torrington Telegram as well to, put the bar, people just scan the QR code with their phone and enter their own data right there and just select what they want to receive and what they don't want to receive. The iPads function, which is, like I said, the emergency alert, that's all going to work the same. Nothing changes there. Just a different interface for the user to actually, set it off. But everything else is pretty much run by FEMA already, so it's already kind of locked in. So I think that's all that I have to say about that. I think the biggest hurdle, like I said, is going to be getting people moved over. And of course, trying to sign the contract early, that moves it into this fiscal year. We've already paid for it for this year through the one vendor. We paid for it in August, but we're trying to start this one a little earlier so we have that time of overlap so that we can move people over. So, have any questions?
Tom, I think you, Mr. Mayor, Tom, I think you answered my question. I was concerned about how you transfer the database. I think that's going to be a task, but worth it.
Yes.
In the end. I am curious how many users there are on the current system.
I can tell you that I believe we had about 2,700. But the problem with OnSolve is you can't get a clear answer. They won't tell you. When citizens sign up for it, if they click the box that says do not share my information, they won't even share it with us. So I know we have 2,700 persons signed up. I don't know how many, maybe more on top of that. I don't know. And like with Platte County, they would not give Platte County their information. So I'm not sure.
Will this system, because you were talking about earlier about the white pages and yellow pages, will this system call those numbers even if they're not signed up?
Yes. When it comes to the white pages, yellow pages, what that's for is for iPaws. So that's when the tornado sirens are going off, or you have some type of imminent emergency where there's threat to life. At that time, it's going to send out, whether we set it off at dispatch, I set it off, Chuck sets it off for anybody that's got the iPaws launch codes, or set off by the Weather Service or whoever it may be. When you set it off, it's going to send an email, text message, and a phone call for everybody that's in the polygon that's prescribed by either the NWS or us. So like if we have a tornado going through LaGrange, then what's going to happen is when the Weather Service gets the report, or if they see it on radar, and it goes from a warning, from a watch to a warning, they would automatically draw a polygon and send it out on iPaws. And then anything in there is going to send out text messages, emails to everybody who signed up, who lives there, works there, that puts that address in there that will be within inside that polygon. But it's also going to call every white page and yellow page number that's listed in that area. So if somebody's on a ranch or something like that, it's still going to reach out to them as well, call their house. Even if they don't have cell phone service, they can at least get some type of notification, hopefully. Hopefully somebody's in the house when that happens,
Mr. Mayor, what you're saying then, Tom, is if they won't share the database with you, then you won't have anything. So if I'm on Code Red, I need to resubscribe then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, Code Red would the contract would end on the 17th. At that point, it wouldn't send out any notifications. So what we do is we have to have a big concerted effort to get people signed up, getting it out, the information. And it's pretty easy. It's a QR code. It's a link you can hit. You can send it out. Like when we do Code Red, when we use that to move everybody over, we can send a QR code, send a link where they can just hit the button, whatever they wish to do. And then, we just got to make sure that it gets out to as many people as we can. So,
Yeah, as my Code Red only goes to my phone. I don't have email and text. They don't, at least they don't send it to me. So.
Yeah, well, if you can with Code Red, back when it first started, it was phones only. But now you can get text messages, emails. So depending on how long ago you signed up,
I guess I'm one of those old people that signed up a long time ago.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, there's definitely as things move forward, technology's moving forward. They're changing constantly. So.
Have you talked to any other communities that are using this system?
Yes, sir. Platte County uses it. They like it. Where I worked previously, I did 26 years in law enforcement. We used it as well. And we used it also for incident planning and incident response. So there is parts of it that the police department could use separately, but that'll be something we would look at doing later once we got the IPAWS part of it up. Where, like, if you have a long-term incident, like a train derailment, say that's going to take weeks to clean up, you can go in, assign tasks, incidents, all that kind of stuff, and assign it to people, and it'll go straight to their phones and let them know that you've assigned them tasks and stuff like that. It's nothing you want to use for like an active shooter type of thing, but something that's slow and long-term, then you can do that, like damage assessments and stuff like that. That's all kind of in this system as well. And we used it a lot there. We had it there for probably, let's say, the last 17 years I was there or so almost. We had their version. They went through several versions as they've updated the software and changed the program. But so I've used it before. I think it's a pretty substantial software. It's good. It's easy to use. That's the most important part. It's user friendly. It's easy to import lists. So if you have your employee list, they send you a spreadsheet that you basically just copy and paste into, or you just change your spreadsheet to match the same headers so that you got the same information. Then you just import it in. It goes in, you just name the groups and stuff like that. So it's a pretty user-friendly module, part of Civic Plus. And the good part about Civic Plus is I'm not sure what the experience here with it is, but if you have a problem with something or you want to just change something, modify, I want it to work this way instead of that way, they're pretty good at going in and making those changes. And they usually do it free of charge because they'll use your idea to sell it to other people. So.
Well, I want to say that was an excellent presentation. You know a lot about this program and the old program, so.
Yes.
Thank you for
Want to make sure we were doing the right thing before I push this forward. So.
Mr. Mayor, I have one follow-up. Tom, can users sign up if they don't even have a smart device? Maybe they just have a landline phone?
Yes. They still have to get to a computer to sign up. But if they just call me, I can put them in, and we'll put that on the information that goes out. If you don't have a cell phone, you don't have a computer at home, call here. We'll enter your information, enter your phone number, which is a good part about this system, which you can't do with OnSolve. It's much easier well, you can do with OnSolve. It's just a much more arduous task to do. With this one, it's much easier to do. I can do it from my smartphone. I can literally add people and change their settings or change what their notifications are just from my cell phone, from the app.
Well, there's many things I like about it. I like about the price. I like the fact that Tom's as familiar with it as he is. You're not having to learn it. You already know it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Since we already have the budget for Code Red, there's no financial difference for the city, right?
It will actually be saving money coming.
You said our agreement expires in August?
Yes, sir. What I would hope to do is start the new contract in May, which would.
I'll probably have to adjust the budget for that, but going forward, it'll be cheaper.
Yes.
There'll be some overlap then, right?
Yes, and that's what I'm hoping to do for several reasons. One is the problem with Platte County that they ran into, getting the database from OnSolve. They weren't even able to get the people who didn't check, do not share my information. They basically stonewalled them once they notified them that their contract was going to expire. The second part is to make sure that we have IPAWS completely integrated. They had an issue in Laramie County about a month ago where they tried to set off IPAWS, and because they had changed systems they went to Rave, a different company, and their IPAWS didn't get switched over. So they had an issue when they tried to set off their Code Red, basically, their IPAWS, their Mercy Alert. It didn't go out. So we want to hopefully have plenty of time to get that, make sure it's done, test it, and all that stuff to make sure everything's working properly before that 17th deadline where Code Red goes out.
So are we to vote to let you go ahead and do it, or are we voting on money for the system, or what are we?
So you just need to approve this going forward, and then I'll come back with an actual budget amendment later.
Any further questions for Tom or for Lynette, or? All right. I would, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I would entertain a motion to approve the new mass notification system, Civic Ready.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the city's participation in the new mass notification system as presented by the county emergency manager.
I have a motion from Councilman Victorin to approve the new mass notification system as presented by Mr. Bozeman from Goshen County Emergency Management. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, all those in favor of item 4, approving the new mass notification system, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that new mass notification system is approved. Thank you, Mr. Bozeman. Next item on the agenda is the Construction Manager at Risk, CMAR proposal for Homesteader Museum construction project. And I know we have Ms. Sarah Chairs here, the museum director, and Mr. Ken Ferrier of Goshen County Construction, LLC. And I think Ms. Chairs is ready for me to call on her. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, thank you. Sarah Chairs, I am the museum director. Just a little background on this project for you. Roughly 7 years ago, James Kelly, a man that lived in Casper, Wyoming, contacted me hoping to leave his artifacts, his antiques, as well as a sum of money to the Homesteaders Museum. And within the last year, that money came through. We collected his artifacts a couple years ago and had them brought down, and they're in storage currently. And his hopes with that money was for us to create a building that will have a designated space for his artifacts, but it'll also be a multi-purpose space. And so the handout that I gave you is kind of a very preliminary plan for that building that we will use for my biggest hope is for archival space. So we're going to have a designated research space, which I currently do not have at the museum. We will also have collections, a collection space in that area, and then hopefully some storage as well. And then a little background on the CMAR. The reason we decided to go with that process was there is a greater amount of transparency with that process, and I am able to work with our contractor from the very beginning through the end of the project to get exactly what we want out of that space. So, any questions?
So you've already been working with Mr. Ferrier on,
Quite a bit, yes.
I can tell by the documents that were
Yes.
presented.
And that did go out to bid, so we bid that out for the construction manager at risk, and Ken was chosen from that.
And you got that Kelly Trust money, some of it for specific purpose, right? So am I right? So you're aligned with that donation as far as whatever strings were attached to that donation?
Yes, absolutely. So there was almost $900,000 total donated to the museum. About $150,000 of that was general purpose. We could use it for whatever we want. The rest of that was for the building specifically.
Okay, and that's the 800,000?
Yes, yep.
So, Mr. Mayor, I just have a question. Where is this building located? Is it to the,
It's not located anywhere yet.
where's it going to be located?
On the north end of our lot, so just north of the depot is where it will go.
Oh, okay.
So we are currently in the process of the old agent building, which is south of the depot, is being torn out. We're going to relocate to the trout shack to that space and clean up that north lot, which has been kind of a nightmare for many years. We've wanted to clean it up anyway, so it'll be a much better use of that space.
So this will face the highway?
Yes,
Great.
the goal is for this to be the new entrance to the museum. So instead of coming into the depot as our main focal point, this new building will be.
Okay.
So the building will be connected to the existing.
Not connected to the existing. The depot is on the National Register of Historic Places, and anything we do to that is a completely different can of worms that we didn't really want to get into.
SHPO gets involved there, yes.
Yes.
Now, all of that area that the current museum's on and around the area, that's all belongs to the city of Torrington now, right? Not the railroad?
Yes, yeah. I mean, the UP has land along the east side, but the area within our fence and to the south is the city of Torrington's. Does that make sense? So they have an easement for the tracks that run along the back of our building.
So the railroad still owns part of it?
They have an easement for the tracks. I guess I don't know. Other than that, no. The city owns the land that all of our buildings are on.
Councilman Kelly, the land the museum buildings are on, everything inside the fence the city owns, and then right behind the building where the track is, the UP still has an easement back there. So they have access to that area for their trains, if they ever wanted to, whatever do back there. So we will not be building back there at all.
Okay.
And for us laymen, this basically sets up Goshen County Construction as what I would call the general contractor.
Yes.
He's responsible for making sure all this gets done and meets your deadlines and.
And I did ask Mr. Ferry if he would come because he can explain the construction manager at risk a lot better than I can. If you have specific questions about that, I'll throw him under the bus.
Sarah, can you kind of describe in general the layout of the building and the size of it and so forth? I'm sorry, I
don't
can't
remember.
really see.
No, that's okay. It is tiny. And I don't remember the exact square footage right now. Ken, do you know the square footage of the building roughly? Square feet, and we're hoping to do a second floor, but we haven't fully explored what that would look like yet. And the goal was to have, so there's a silo, it's gonna look like a barn. The silo would be the entrance space where we would have someone to greet people, and then you'd walk into an exhibit space. In the back, we would have research and archival space. I get a lot of research requests currently and don't have a designated space for all of those materials, so I'm really excited to have an area for that. And then hopefully upstairs, we would have a workspace and an artifact work area.
It's a place to have the archives available so people can actually
Yes.
use them.
Yes, because right now they're kind of everywhere and not well organized, so.
And what's the expected date that the construction will start and end? You know? Okay.
It's another
We'll ask
question
Mr.
for
Fair.
someone other than me, I suppose. Soon, I hope, tomorrow morning, maybe.
All right, does anybody have any further questions for Sarah? I would ask Mr. Ferrier to come up for a minute, if he would.
Thank you.
Thank
He's
you.
here, we'll call on him.
Mayor and Council, my name's Ken Ferrier, Managing Member of Goshen County Construction. Do you have this?
Yes.
Okay, so what questions do you have directly for me?
Just generally, what is what's the term Sarah was using? CMAR.
Construction Manager at Risk. It is one of the three methods that is allowed to be used to spend public works money. As a construction manager at risk, the contractor, myself, would be responsible for much more than just looking at your drawings and bidding it. In this case, as you can see right here, there is a pre-construction fee. That is the first part of the contract for construction manager at risk. There's a contract that contracts that amount. That amount I have put together as what it would take to get this, the design finished based off of your initial concept. I assume you have a picture of the building. There was a simple picture, yes. So we got to get beyond that. And since it is a public building, it will require architectural work, engineering work, getting it through the state, all necessary fees to have it done. Other options oftentimes would have been that you guys get all that done, you give it to contractors, then you take bids, and you accept whatever you got. In this particular case, as the construction manager at risk, well, any construction manager at risk, we will work with the owners to get designed the way you want it. And in this case, as you can see here, we are shooting for a budget. And this is what I've been told we're shooting for. So we're shooting for a budget. And with the size of the building as what was originally drawn by Dan Swift over in Laramie, it's about a 2,100 square foot building. It's not big, but the type of the building and second story, that silo, it will be more expensive per square foot than just a standard building. So the goal would be to work with Sarah, the city, to use the maximum amount of construction we can for the dollars you say we have to work with. And that kind of comes in play, construction manager at risk. I'm at risk to try and hit that goal. And so we have a pre-construction fee, which includes architects. I've got prices for architectural, mechanical, electrical, civil, structural engineering in order to get this drawn. I have to have something to give to the state. And you guys have to know what you're getting. So that's the fee to get that done. Within that fee, it would be the construction manager's responsibility to advertise this in the paper. Once we have the drawing that we agree upon, advertise this in the paper and accept either qualifications for contractors or bids from contractors for each phase of that work. And there's costs in there for that, costs in for me to take care of all of that and get that done. My administrative costs to, basically, we would be down to the point where we're just asking Sarah, what do you want? Here's where we're at now. You don't have to do it, you've hired somebody to do it. So with that being the case, you've hired me to do that if you choose that. And if we choose to do that, then we get it designed, we put it out, we get it bid, and then that would be the guaranteed maximum price for the project, which would be an amendment to the original contract. The original contract would be a pre-construction fee. We got to get this far. The guaranteed maximum price is something that you don't have to take. You don't have to accept. You can say, we're not going through with the project. Or let's say it's $900,000. Oh, we can't spend that. What can we do? We're going to change it. We're going to move it down to here. What if it was $700,000? We have a little bit more to spend. What can we add to it? Can we make the building bigger? Can we put an elevator in? What do we do? So it's very flexible. And as construction manager at risk, when we get prices for the rest of the building, the guaranteed maximum price, that will be on a schedule of values that will show you exactly what our prices came from, everybody from all trades. Somebody bid $10,000 to do the concrete work. That's going to show right there. The construction service fee, which is a percentage, that number is only there based on what we're shooting for. It's a percentage. So as construction manager at risk, you pay the construction manager a percentage of what the costs are. In this case, if it's $700,000, you pay me $70,000. It's just a fee. You know where you're at. You can choose to go up or down or not choose it at all. But to go any further, you have to agree to the pre-construction fee to get it engineered and get it to the point where you will accept this is what we want to bid. This is how we want it to look. So it's a pretty transparent type of method. You know where you're at. You will know where your money is being spent. It's not used often. This particular building we're in was done years ago with that method. The Evergreen Plaza was done past few years under that method. It is a method that the state has put in place to spend public works money, which allows the owner, in a sense, in this case the city, to choose who you want to do it. And with that being said, then you know where you're spending your money. Because I can't and wouldn't hide anything. You can't, it's all shown. Clear enough? Kind of?
I think that was a good explanation. It's the first time I've heard the explanation, but
Yeah.
it was good.
But basically, we'd hire you to make sure we stay within budget.
Yes, we've given a budget to work with. And we do everything we can to hit that budget. Now, we can't ask a trade to work for nothing, but we can ask trades, if we ended up with 900,000 and we can't spend 900,000, then we all work together, the selected trades and myself, Sarah, and we decide what can we get for that. And that would be the guaranteed maximum price with a set of drawings that we produce for that. And like I say, that's an amendment to the contract that you choose to sign or not sign. The only thing you would commit to right now would be the pre-construction fee. And this is a little, it's more than what it might often be, but in this particular case, I'm bringing in all the engineers and the architect because you don't have it. We're actually going to, if we do this, we will use the architect that originally had made this concept. I've been in contact with him. He already has a start on it. Why should we pay somebody more to redo it? You know, so, and in this particular case, we would do this as a pre-engineered metal building, and we would use B&C steel. I don't think anybody would beat them anyhow. This happens to be a building. See how it's very similar? This B&C steel built in Colorado. Now this is a lot bigger. So there's already some level of experience in that exact design. So it's just a different method, you know, that is used for contracting. Because it allows you to choose somebody to do it for you.
The method has been used extensively in the community college system throughout the state with the different colleges, different projects.
And that was my understanding. This building we're sitting in was done in this manner.
By Sampson Construction years ago. The C-Tech up at the college, the $20 million C-Tech was done construction manager at risk. The jail here in Torrington years ago, before many of us knew about it, was done like that. The state put it in place, it's in the statutes, put it in place years ago with, and I know this because I became friends with a man from the state who managed these kind of projects for the state. And when things were designed and put out for bid and somebody came in too low and they felt as if they had to take them, then problems arose. So they found contractors that did a good job for them. And then they said, let's do this like this. Let's make this, the statutes allow for this to happen. UW uses it a lot, a lot. It gives the owner more of an opportunity to select how it's going to be priced, how it's going to end up.
So, and I'll ask you, Mr. Ferrier, or you, Lynette, so tonight, the request of council is to approve just the proposed pre-construction services fee. Is that what I'm understanding?
You're approving this attachment here. And for Goshen County Construction, services fee of 10%.
The only thing the fee that you're approving is the pre-construction fee. This is the proposal for it. That's a set fee. The rest of it is, this is how we hope it to end up, once we've got it engineered. The pre-construction fee is a set amount, and that would be in a contract that I shared with, in a meeting, and Eddington has one, and, you know, from the Evergreen Act says, my pre-construction fee is this much. We get it engineered, I put it out for bid, we publicly open that, like to use a room here in this facility, we publicly open that, I put it all together in a schedule of values, pick a number out of the sky, I say we can do this for $750,000. Then, if you approve that, we amend the contract and you choose the guaranteed maximum price. Right now, you're only committing to the pre-construction fee, which is mostly engineering.
That's the 45.4?
Yes.
And so, by definition, we'll be back to approve probably an amendment when all this process, so, so it's a process. We're just starting the process.
Starting it.
We're essentially entering into a contract with Goshen County Construction at that rate and designating you as the construction manager at risk.
Yes, and that fee will be paid to get it designed, bid out, and put together, and then I propose, we would end up back here, I propose a number saying we will finish this building for this much money. You choose it or you don't choose it. And in the meantime, me and Sarah and whatnot would go back and forth, just what can we end up with for the budget? You know, it's kind of a long process. So earlier when you said, when do we start? Not right away.
But as the bids come in, you may find that you need to cut a couple things, or that maybe you can add a couple things, or whatever. You
Just an ongoing process. Okay.
But like I say, you would see those fees. And we'll shoot for a goal, you know, and that's the goal we're shooting for, is 800,000.
And you would be responsible for having everything built to code, correct?
Oh, yes. In the pre-construction fee, I have estimated money in there for state fees to get through with Dennis, his inspections, and the third party. If you choose not to third party, then we would remove my estimated fee that's in there. So yeah, the construction manager at risk, it's mostly just a general contractor. But it makes, once we're designed and once you accept, if you accept a guaranteed maximum price, the general contractor, I'm responsible for everything. Yeah. But that would be a second agreement, you know, a price that you would agree upon. Anything else?
I don't think so. Thank you, Ken.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
We're clear enough with how it works?
I think so.
Okay.
It's all on your shoulders.
Well, anything that we put out to an open bid, it still would be on the general contractor's shoulder who received the bid.
Yeah.
But in this case, there's, you know, as it states, pre-construction services. Rather than you guys getting it all ready, I have to get it all ready. So that's the difference. Okay? All right, thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could, I think it's important for the public to understand that the money that is being used for this project came from an estate, and the city accepted that estate money for the sole purpose of building this. And this took place, how many years ago did you say, Sarah?
The process started about 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Received the money about a year ago.
But the gift essentially started, the intent of the gift started long ago.
But it was, this 800,000 was for a specific purpose, a building to store certain things under the terms of that trust and that gift, right?
Correct.
Is that,
Absolutely. My intention was to make that clear for the public.
well, I appreciate that, because it can only be used for the building.
Yes.
But it's not really public money though, right?
It's a donation.
It's private money donated to the museum.
Yeah, it's become public now that we've accepted it.
But we're not free to do with it what we want, because there is still, the terms of the trust, I don't want to get sued because we
Right.
used it for something other than what.
And if
what
you
it was.
remember from my financial reports, it's in the restricted area. It has to be used for a restricted purpose.
So it's not tax money,
Right.
Yeah,
but it is public money once.
that's what I meant. It wasn't taxpayer dollars.
It's essentially building a public asset.
And part of the reason for the process of construction manager at risk, because state statutes allows public money to be spent like that.
Yeah.
You just can't go hire anybody under, off the street, whoever you want. It has to follow the statutes, because it is public.
All right. If there aren't any further questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the proposed construction manager at risk proposal regarding the proposed pre-construction services fixed fee
With Goshen,
of $45,400
with Goshen County Construction.
with Goshen County Construction. I would entertain that motion if somebody can repeat it.
So moved. Sylvia can repeat.
Can I hear the motion?
So moved.
Yeah.
I will make the motion, or do you want to? I would prefer if a councilman made the motion.
I can,
I certainly am, or if Councilman Patterson is willing.
I can make an attempt.
Okay.
Okay, well, I move that we approve the construction manager at risk proposal with Goshen County Construction for the amount of
45,400.
$45,400.
$45,400 for the proposed pre-construction services fixed fee.
Okay.
I heard it, yep.
All right. I have a motion by Councilman Patterson.
Kind of.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I would second.
I have a second from Councilman Victorin. Is there any further discussion, gentlemen? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving Councilman Patterson's motion regarding the construction manager at risk CMAR proposal at the amount of $45,400 regarding the proposed pre-construction services fixed fee with Goshen County Construction, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that is approved.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. All right, next item on the agenda is item number 6. Request for council to award a bid or approve a bid, FY '24 Pioneer Drive, Staff recommends awarding the bid to J-Built Homes, Inc. of Torrington, Wyoming in the amount of $375,795.25 with no contingency. The finished project will be scaled back in the amount of $43,795.25 for a final project cost of $332,000. And I would refer to Mr. Harkins, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As the mayor stated, we're recommending that council award the base bid for the Pioneer Drive project to J-Built Homes. Basically, this project consists of 3,535 square yards of existing pavement removals, 2,752 lineal feet of new curb and gutter, and 2,688 square yards of new 6-inch PCC pavement. Pioneer Drive, if you're not familiar with it, is one of the roads up at the cemetery. And basically it has a inverted crown, so all the water basically runs down the middle of the road instead of a typical crowned road which runs off to the sides. We did have a bid opening for this project on March 20th. 2 bids were submitted in conformance with the bidding requirements. J-Built Homes was obviously the low bidder. Unfortunately, their bid still exceeded our available budget, so we're going to scale back this project by what the mayor was saying, $43,795.25, so that we have a total budget of $332,000, which matches our available funding. We did budget in the 2024 budget $320,000 under 1090-140, and we are getting another $12,000 from Ed, the streets department, out of his account 1060-750 to make that $332,000 budget available. Contractor will be given 45 days to complete the project. Substantial completion date is June 30th, 2024. If you have any questions, I'll hopefully be able to answer them for you.
So Mr. Mayor, I have just a quick question. So as you scale this back, do we make it shorter, narrower, thinner? How do we scale it?
If you're familiar with Pioneer Drive, it's a very steep road going from 30th up the hill.
Yes.
There is a point about 175 feet south of Tucker Road where it kind of levels off. We will end at that point so that there's about 175 feet of the project that won't be constructed per the plans that were prepared.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Harkins, percentage-wise, with this amount, the $320,000, I think you told me this morning it would be about 90%.
Probably 85 to 90% of the original project.
Mr.
It
Mayor.
basically takes care of that inverted section. That'll go away. It'll be nice. It'll have a typical crown surface with curb and gutter on both sides to channel the water down the street so that we don't get the erosion that's currently occurring in the center of the street.
Councilman Victor?
Director, what does the plan do to address the approach into Pioneer Drive?
As is, you're thinking it's too steep or too?
It's pretty awkward, I think, trying to get in and off 30th.
We're going to put in.
Is it made wider, or at least
I
just
think
a
it will
smoother?
be wider. It'll have radiused returns around the entrance. It'll kind of look like a driveway approach in some regards, but it'll have a radius on both ends. The roadway itself, I think, is 16 foot wide, and we'll add a couple of feet on either side for the curb and gutter. So it'll probably be right around 20 feet when it's all said and done.
Mr. Mayor, I have another question for the treasurer. I think during budget discussions, we appropriated money from fuel tax for this project as well. Is that correct? Correct. Is that the bulk of this project paid through? Okay.
I guess the only thing I might wonder about is Memorial Day, when all kinds of cars are parking, if there's going to be curb and gutter. Do you see a substantial problem with that?
This is going to be the mountable curb and gutter, so you can drive over it. It's not the, the barrier type curb and gutter that you see around town in most locations.
So people will still be able to park to the side and
Yes, you'd be able to get off the roadway if you so choose to. With the 45-day construction period, depending on when J-Built Homes starts, I mean, if he's currently working out at the golf course, and I think he's just about finished up with that project. If he goes and starts this project fairly soon, I'm not going to guarantee it, but he could potentially be done before Memorial Day.
That'd be wonderful if that happened.
It would be wonderful.
Is there some trees in that area that will have to be removed, or?
No, there's no trees. Basically, we're just going back in the same exact footprint that the existing road is, so.
So the gate there doesn't change? The entrance, the width of the gate at least?
Councilman Victor, we removed that gate the other day. It just never did operate correctly. We were swinging them uphill, and it was just a big mess. So we took it out. We're going to reset it. We're thinking about moving it in from 30th a little bit and do something different there. About 50 foot in from 30th, we have a main irrigation line that crosses that road. We got to do some work there. So I think he is going to lighten that hill up a little bit, but we can only go so deep because of that water line right there.
Sure.
Any more questions? Concerns? I would entertain a motion to approve and award that bid to J-Built Homes as set forth in item 6.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve awarding the bid to J-Built Homes in the amount set forth in the memo submitted by staff for the Pioneer Drive construction project.
I have a motion from Councilman Victorin to approve and award the bid to J-Built Homes in the amount set forth, well, on the agenda itself in the amount of $332,000. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Deal. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving and awarding the bid to J-Built Homes as set forth in item 6, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that bid is approved and awarded. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item number 7. Resolution number 2024-2, authorizing the submission of a statement of interest, SOI, for federal funding through the Transportation Alternatives Program administered by the Wyoming Department of Transportation for the purpose of the City of Torrington / Torrington Rotary Club walking and biking pathway improvements, West C to Jordan Park project. And since Mr. Eddington is not here, I will take the liberty of reading the resolution. Resolution number 2024-2, a resolution authorizing the submission of a statement of interest, SOI, for federal funding through the Transportation Alternatives Program administered by the Wyoming Department of Transportation for the purpose of the City of Torrington / Torrington Rotary Club walking and biking pathway improvements, West C Street to Jordan Park project. Witnesseth. Whereas the governing body of the City of Torrington desires to participate in the Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP, to assist in funding this project. Whereas the governing body for City of Torrington recognizes the need for the project. Whereas TAP requires that federal funding criteria be met, and the City of Torrington agrees to ensure satisfaction of all requirements. Whereas the governing body for City of Torrington acknowledges the required 9 51/100%, 9.51% local cash match on the project will be a combination of funds contributed by the City of Torrington, the Torrington Rotary Club, and other available qualifying grants. Whereas the governing body for City of Torrington acknowledges TAP is funded on a reimbursement basis, and all invoices must be 100% paid by the City of Torrington prior to reimbursement through TAP, paren 90.49% federal reimbursement. The City of Torrington acknowledges that failure to comply with this requirement may result in cancellation of the award and repayment by the City of Torrington of all funds reimbursed. Whereas submitting the required SOI does not commit or obligate the City of Torrington or the Torrington Rotary Club to actually move forward and apply for a project or this funding. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the governing body of the City of Torrington that a statement of interest, SOI, application is approved to be submitted to the Wyoming Department of Transportation for a Transportation Alternatives TAP grant in the amount of $1 million to fund the proposed City of Torrington / Torrington Rotary Club walking and biking pathway improvements West C to Jordan Park, passed, approved, and adopted this second day of April 2024 by Herb Doby, attest Lynette Stricker, Clerk Treasurer. So there, I've read that, and I would call on Mr. Estes.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. What we have here is the City of Torrington's been asked by Rotary Club to participate in a program to replace all the walking paths from West C Street to Jordan Park, where they connect to the newer path going east. These paths would be completely torn out. They would be 8 foot wide with pavement markings and all new ADA accessible ramps on every approach to the street. So Rotary has a grand plan to make this big walking path around town, and they've already done some improvements for us over on East M and Lupine in the past couple of years. So I'm pretty excited about this program. LaGrange, I guess, has gotten a couple of these programs. This will all be administered through what used to be Baker and Associates, but now it's JEO Consulting Group. So they have a local consultant here that would do all the work. They would do everything, and unfortunately, if we get this all done, Lynette would have to do the billing. It's going to be a lot of work for her again. So, yeah, it's going to be a good project. If it comes to it, what this does is if you sign this tonight, they'll send somebody out from YDOT. They'll look at the program with the consultant and myself and probably the Rotary Club, and they'll see if they think it's a viable project, and then they'll ask us to apply for a grant. And then there's a grant writer with EWC and Economic Development that will do the grant writing. And once they send that in, then they'll come back and they'll know exactly what it's going to cost, and then they'll ask you again to participate at whatever level that's going to be. So I would stand for any questions you have about that.
Why do they want to tear out what's already there?
Well, right now, our bike paths, especially from C Street to Jordan Park, are about 3 or 4 foot wide. A lot of them are failing. I have money in the budget right now to replace from Main Street to West A. We did the estimate on it here just about a month ago, and it's not enough money to do that now. Just like the cemetery project, the cost of concrete is just outrageous right now. So most of that stuff from Main Street over to West C is failing. It's the oldest. It's been there since 1972, 73 when it was built. And we have some issues in there that we need to get fixed. There's some pretty good tripping hazards in there if you do walk the path. I think it's a great project. It's going to be all wide. You can run 2 bikes on it. It'll all be marked correctly. It'll all have the right ADA ramps. We have ADA ramps on it now, but they're not correct. They're just matching what we have there. And what the consultant told me is what happens with these grants is when you get into these older parts of towns like this, sometimes you have to take half the block up to get that sidewalk right to meet the ramp and the street. So that costs a lot of money, adds a lot of money to the project. Depending on what happens there, that's what's probably going to be the driving factor if we get to $1 million.
Well, the way I understand it, you have to do the work, pay for it all, and then submit for the grant?
I believe what happens is they submit the bill to Lynette, she pays for it out of our budget, and then she requests funds from YDOT.
So once the project's done, and we spend $1 million doing it, we may or may not get reimbursed.
Oh, you will.
Is that a
Plus, you'll
guarantee?
have partners with Rotary and possibly economic development.
But that's not a guarantee, right?
I think Rotary's probably a guarantee. And nobody's fully committed yet until we get this project, we gotta get it approved first to even do it, and then they'll do the estimate on it, and then we'll see the estimate. Then we'll know who's gonna fund it and how we're gonna fund it. But that's gonna take another year. We won't even look at a funding probably till next budget season.
Mr. Mayor, Dennis, that was going to be my question, what the timeline is for approval on the grant.
Right, it wouldn't be till the next budget for sure.
So the city's going to have to preliminary budget for the project if approved initially. We're going to have to budget for the project
If it's
to then
approved.
be reimbursed.
Correct.
Right now, this is just a statement of interest. We're not bound or anything else. It's just expressing a statement of interest. So what Mr. Estes said, you can get the YDOT person here and the Rotary person and yourself and sit around and talk about it and go out and look at it, right?
Correct.
So we're not getting any more involved than that.
You're not
if
committing
we
any
pass
funds at
that.
this point. You're just telling them by the 15th of this month that you're interested, and they'll send somebody out. That's the deadline for the interest.
Mr. Mayor, is there anyone from Rotary here with us tonight?
Braden's here.
Yeah, but can you sign the checks?
No, I cannot. Braden Konar, CEO, Go Goshen. So I was in on these preliminary.
The reason I asked that is, I mean, Rotary's wanting us to apply for this. I think the intent is, but I guess I would like to see Rotary here.
Yeah, and I think it's so early on. I know Rotary had a grant, walking path grant that they were awarded through Rotary International or whatever. I couldn't give you a number because I'm not sure of what that number is. And so I think based on the timeline with Dennis, it would be this award plus next year's award. And then I think there's an opportunity for my entity to play a role in the match funds as well. And then the city of Torrington if need be. But like I said, I think it was just a preliminary. The city of Torrington, or the Rotary Club has been looking at extending that walking path, but due to the cost of concrete, you know, whether it's 40, 50, 60,000 doesn't go very far. And so I think LaGrange had received $1.5 million to do their walking path down there. This was coming available. You know, that walking path has been engineered through Benchmark, through Baker and Associates. It's low-hanging fruit. So we brought Dennis and Mark Weiss last week and just asked about it, what would be, and then that's when we came up, well, if a big portion of the funding best utilized would be utilized to widen that path from West C to Jordan Park. You know, we talked about the river and that kind of stuff, but then you get into private property and what do those easements look like, and those aren't set in stone yet. And so as far as biggest bang for the buck, that seemed to be the best way. It gets everything ADA compliant. And so that was kind of the thought. And then I'm not real sure if the powers that be at Rotary knew to be here tonight or not. So I will assure you, Councilman Victor, that somebody will be here if the statement of intent is approved and they come. I assure you that will happen.
Very good.
Yeah, I think, we need to just remember where we are at this point. It's just kind of an exploratory, and it seems like it could be a very good project should it come to pass, and so it doesn't really cost much to explore.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at.
It literally says Statement of Interest, SOI.
Yep.
That's all we're doing.
So,
I understand that. I just, Rotary's project essentially.
but I agree.
Yeah, I understand that as well.
And I know it was done a long time ago because I was the one who ran the trencher to run the sprinkler system.
I was going to say, I remember that too, and that project.
Any other questions? Like I said, not in official Rotary capacity, but I was in the meeting, so.
There's interest in Rotary of doing this.
Correct.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve the submission of the statement of interest for federal funding.
I have a motion from Councilman Deal in item number 7 to approve the resolution number 2024, Statement of Interest for federal funding. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilman Patterson. Do I have any further discussion, gentlemen? All right, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the resolution number 2024-2, authorizing submission of a statement of interest for federal funding as set forth in item 7, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that resolution is approved, and I'm authorized to sign it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item number 8, approval of the bills from March 2024 to April 2nd, 2024. And I'll call on Ms. Strecker.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Sorry for the confusion tonight. I did hand out a second set of bills, and there's also a set attached to your agenda. If you have any questions on either of these sets of bills, I'd be glad to answer those.
In the interest of keeping the Assistant Chief busy tonight, he's answered a couple of questions. Was that one of the old Dodge Chargers that was towed?
Yes, it was.
Well, if there are no further questions, I would make a motion to approve the bills as presented.
And I would second.
I have a motion from Councilman Kelly to approve the bills as presented and a second from Councilman Victorin. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of the bills as set forth in item number 8 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the bills are approved. Next item on the agenda is public comment. And I have 2 fire chiefs essentially back there. Does one want to approach and give us a report, or both? Looks like Chief Patch is coming.
The final report.
Final report.
Yeah, Louis said I was still on the books, so I had to do it, so. Thanks again, Mayor and Council. So last couple of weeks, relatively quiet. We had a small little grass fire, a couple carbon monoxide calls, gas leak, and then I believe we had somebody burning some yard waste in town. So we got called out for that as well. So, kind of the time of year and whatnot. So it's been relatively quiet, knock on wood. I know next month we have Cody Fire School coming up. Sign-up sheet is up now, so we may have some members going up to that as well. But that'll be, I think, the first weekend in May. So,
And I heard this morning there was a very interesting carbon monoxide report where the lady was out of town and she got a report on her phone, and she had had the foresight to leave a key with the local police department so you could gain entry to the house. There's some foresight for you.
yeah, it was kind of an interesting, you listen to it and they're like, hey, carbon monoxide detector's going off, but they're out of town. So it's kind of like, that's different, but like you said, good foresight, a nice job by them to be able to allow us to get in without having to do some damage. So,
Just thought that was interesting.
yeah, very much so.
All right. Thank you. This is probably your last time giving us a report as chief, unless you do it again sometime.
Well, I might have to since Dennis and I are tied. I didn't know that. I would probably ran again, so.
You're staying on the fire department, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. And appreciate your service.
Yes, thank you for your service. This probably is your last time. Probably, never say never.
True.
But thank you for your service and keeping us well informed.
Thank you, guys. It's been, a pleasure over the last 8 years, kind of bittersweet, but it's good to have other people, good new ideas and some stuff like that. I think we've done some really good things the last 8 years, and we're trying to continue with the progress, that past Chief Estes started. In my opinion, he was chief when I started. So, I think we've continued to progress as we should, and Luis will do a good job, and we'll continue doing that. So, thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, this is public comment time. Is there anybody out there that has a public comment?
Mayor, I have 2 items, if I may.
Yes, sir.
First item is, I told you at the work session last week that there's a crew in town today. They started today surveying all over town. So there's a group of about 4 people and 3 white trucks. They should have safety vests on. They're from the Corps of Engineers. I wrote a grant and through the FEMA flood program. And they're coming in here and they're going to check elevations manually instead of taking it off the satellites like the FEMA did. And so they're going to take that information back and make us some reports on it, and hopefully it'll help us down the road. But they're going to be all over town this week and most of the weekend. So you'll see them flying around here. So if they come out in your yard, they're only going to be there like 5 seconds. They're going to take the elevation of your foundation and they're going to walk off. So if it's locked or anything, you don't want them in there, just tell them. So there shouldn't be any issue. If you have any issue, just call my office, the city hall, and they'll get a hold of me and I can come running over and see if I can help out.
Okay, since we're on the radio, what number should they call?
532-0298 is my cell phone, so they can call me directly.
532-0298.
0298.
Okay. And this should give us a more accurate survey of the floodplain areas.
So they tell us, yeah. They indicated a lot of houses are going to check, mainly, from the administration, the school administration building, football field area, going east down 26th, 25th, over to Main Street, and then kind of, if you kind of picture how water would run down the hill, it'd kind of go like southeasterly down to the Goshen Mobile Estates behind McDonald's. They're going to do a lot of work in there. And then they're going to do some work at our non-potable wells out at the golf course. They're going to check those elevations because that's in a floodplain. And then our sewer lagoon outlets and around our sewer lagoons, they're going to check that.
And you got a grant to do this?
Yeah, it was a grant through the FEMA flood program, got me interested in it, and so we put it in, and it's called the Silver Jackets. It's through the Army Corps of Engineers. So, see how that works out. They said it's good information if we go to get grants to improve our infrastructure, because that's our problem, is the stormwater. It's not flood from the river, it's stormwater that we cannot handle, that's never been improved over the years. So, that's where everybody gets caught with the flood here.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Estes. Does council have any public comment?
Was that the only, Dennis?
Did you have 2 things?
I had one more. We are
sorry.
needing applications for the Parks and Cemetery part-time help this summer. Right now, I don't believe we have maybe 1 or 2, but we're looking for help. So anybody that's over 18, looking for a job, give us a call at City Hall, and we'll get going with that process.
All right.
Are they still using the the guys out at the prison, or they discontinue that?
They're checking on that. I guess they got a new warden, I think, and so Mr. McCraney's checking on that to see if we can still get that help for Memorial Day.
All right, if there are no comments from council or comments from the public, I will close the public comment section, and I would entertain a motion to move into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we move into executive session.
I have a motion from Councilman Patterson to move into executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Deal. Any discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, all those in favor of leaving regular session and moving into executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, so we will move into executive session, and we will move out of that and adjourn.